Hello and welcome to this episode of the Magnetic Woman Show. I am so excited today to bring you such an incredible guest, Sasha Ostara, who is a certified sex, love, and relationship coach with over 8 years experience. But she's also an initiated priestess and has been since the age of 12. So she brings lifelong devotion to sacred ritual and archetypal work, as well as embodied healing. And her approach is trauma informed, neurodivergent affirming, and she is rooted in her Mexican, Lebanese, and Mayan heritage. Sasha, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for this conversation. So, why don't you tell the audience just a little bit more about you and how you got into the work that you do currently?
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate that. And oh my gosh, I feel like this kind of work chooses us before we choose it.
Such a
This has,
good point.
yeah,
Yeah.
this has been a path that I started working on even before I actually knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. I was like I was 12 when I started just working with the goddess and doing my prayers and my dedication. I actually trained in a sanctuary run by women of color. So the energy there, the teachings was about integrity, being in constant integrity, devotion, life as a dedication
Yeah.
to the sacred. So
Yeah.
um, eventually life happened and I left the sanctuary and things. Well, I was going every summer, so I stopped going because life happened. It was for the better, but it's like that was just a part of the journey. The
Yeah.
journey kept opening up and showing me that I needed to continue in this path of devotion to the goddess through life, through
Mm.
serving the women
Yeah.
that are at the end of the day the way in which we serve the goddess by serving women, by serving the world, by serving the earth.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. And I have to tell you, like, over the last few years, so my own spiritual journey has been, I grew up Catholic, went through 10 years of Catholic school. Now, my parents were not very like strictly religious. They were culturally Catholic, as we like to say, you know. And then over the last 10 years, my spiritual journey has been deconstructing religion and coming back into what I call like my pre-Christian ancestral roots, right? So very much connected to the goddess. And the word devotion for me, I come back to all of the time. And I think that it is central for modern women leaders and modern women leaders who are spiritual in whatever that looks like, right? But I would love to hear your thoughts around like spiritual devotion as it relates to leadership.
Oh, that is a foundational that has been forgotten, a foundational part that has been forgotten.
Yeah.
Leadership should be about how to serve those that we are leading in quotations. It's a sense of being in service, being in devotion, and not about being above in any way. So that has been deeply forgotten. That has been deeply mistreated by patriarchy. Patriarchy took leadership as this game of hierarchy.
Yeah.
And in doing that, even women that have embraced leadership at some point started doing that from the game of patriarchy, from the textbook of patriarchy. So at the end of the day, devotion is the way of leading. We
Oof.
just need to remember how to do that from a place of heart and a place of connection.
Ugh, I love that. And yeah, I just the day that we're recording this, I just made a video for the event page, right? So if you haven't had a chance to join the Embodied Feminine Leadership Revolution event happening March 20th through 27th, it's free. The link's below. Make sure to join us. But in the invitation video, I talk about how we were given this like quote unquote rule book for leadership, and it's the patriarchy's rules, which ironically, the patriarchy's rules are about keeping women from power. And
Yeah.
for, for the last few generations, women leaders, even though we had examples of female leaders, they were using the patriarchy's rule book. And thank goodness, I'm very, very well aware that we stand on the backs of the women that came before us. We stand on the backs of the women, the feminists especially, who fought for our rights, fought for our equality, fought for economic and educational freedoms and access. Um, and we're at a point now where we get to throw that rule book out and redefine what leadership means. And so, both you and I have sex, love, and relationship certification that we got through the same certification program. And to me, there's also something like there's this piece of devotion, right? And then there is
Mhm.
something also so fundamental and important about pleasure and sexuality in terms of
Yes.
our leadership. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Like, where do you see pleasure and a woman's sexuality fitting in with leadership? Because again, patriarchy's rule book, a sexy
Yeah.
woman is not a leader, right? It's like that
Mhm.
dichotomy. You can be this or that. You can be smart and respected and a leader, or sexy, flirtatious, turned on.
Mhm. There's so much to say about that, but I would like to start with how, at the end of the day, beyond beyond patriarchy or matriarchy, there is community, and community which has been the foundation of the indigenous way of connecting to the earth.
Yeah.
And this indigenous way sees sensuality in a very alive way. And I want to give an example. Like
Please.
that was so so I have a cat here.
I get it.
Yeah, an example that everybody saw, like the Super Bowl with this amazing show by Bad Bunny.
Oh,
That,
so good.
exactly. That was a masterpiece of sexuality,
Yep.
pleasure, reconnection, and community, all of it together.
Yep.
And what happened there was literally what happens every day in the communities that are run by people still connected to the land, which is celebrating life
Yeah.
in a very primal way. And when you do that, pleasure just happens. Like it just starts running through your body. You don't even have to play sexy. It just happens. It just embodies you because everything in this world that we live in is sensual.
Yeah.
Everything is erotic in a way. When you see a flower, a rose, a river, a cloud, like it's so sensual. There is this energy that is full of life and mystery. And that's sexy, literally. Life and mystery, right?
Yes. So, so true. And again, I think for so many of us, right, what has felt off about leadership, about entrepreneurship, about, building an online business, is how disembodied it is. It's all about getting up and out of the body. It's living in the head. It's trying to figure it out. It's trying to like reason or rationalize over our intuitive knowing, over the ancient wisdom that we hold inside of us, over the pleasure and joy of life. And I think that right now when there is so much pain, suffering, like unimaginable. It's so horrific happening in the world and here in the United States, especially, or not especially, but especially as in especially I live here. Um, it can be so easy to forget pleasure, joy, embodiment, right? We're so overly connected with social media and technology, and we are seeing the most horrific things unfold minute to minute. And there's an importance and a power, especially as a woman leader, to be informed and to not just kind of like, oh, if I don't look, it's not happening, or the spiritual and emotional bypassing that occurs often, which is like, I'm above politics, or like, I'm just gonna love and light my way around this. Um, and we can forget the simple, not always easy, power of pleasure and joy, specifically as a form of resistance, specifically as a form of like pushing back against all of this.
And that's how we survive. That's how people from oppressed groups have survived over and over again through the power of their joy. That is the one thing that keeps us going. The biggest genocide in history happened here in the American continent. It was the millions and millions of people that died from the south to the
Yes.
north, like the
Yep.
whole continent of indigenous people went through
Mhm.
genocide and erasure.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, those people that survive and carry their legacy are the most joyful people that you will ever find. We are people that connect with joy, that dance all the time. My father was Mayan, fully Mayan, from Chiapas, and my mother would joke about how everywhere, like even in the elevator, there was music and he could just start dancing. And that is the spirit of these people that have survived. We take pleasure as an embodied way of resisting. And that goes from what we eat, how
Yes.
we love, how we make love, how we dance, how we sing. That is resistance in action because we have learned what it feels like to be always in an uncertain world
Yeah.
where we could go through crisis, dictatorship, whatever is
Yep.
going on, an earthquake. Like, we know what that feels like, and we are resilient because we are joyful, because we connect to pleasure. And the same happens with African people, and the same
Yes.
happens with Middle Eastern, and the same happens with everyone that is in the Pacific Islands. Like that's the most embodied people, not because life was easy, but because it wasn't.
Ugh, I just got chills because I think for so many of us in 2026, um, especially women of like white European heritage, there is, I think, a reckoning happening. I don't know if that's the correct word for it, but we're like, wait, I didn't think I'd have to deal with this. Like I didn't, uh, we have more access to education than the generations before us. We have access to, and yet we're faced with now, especially again here in the United States, especially or specifically, this attack on our rights, our humanity. I mean,
Yes.
for all minorities and marginalized communities in the United States, and again, I think a lot of women are we're naive, right? Like you don't know until you know. And so when you say that like joy and pleasure is, this foundational piece of the resistance, I think of how many of us, no matter what background you have, right, have for the last 5, 8, 10 years been doing work around pleasure, embodiment, and I don't know about you, but for me, when I first started doing this work, of course, I was not like, you know what? I think I'm going to need this when the fascists try and take over. I was
Never thought about that. Yeah.
right. Like, and even when I got the certification that you and I both have, I was like, oh, this will help my business. Never was I like, this is going to be how I push back against Christian nationalism. And
Yes.
so,
Yes.
as you said, like this work chooses us. And I think for so many of us, we've been doing a lot of this healing work, integration work, embodiment work, pleasure work, sexuality work, spirituality work, right? And it's like all been in preparation for right now because we truly do get to lead now. We get to stay grounded, stay regulated, and use all of the things that we have been fortunate enough to learn
Mhm.
up
Yeah.
until now and apply that to our own lives and teach others how to do the same.
Yes. That's such an important piece. And that there was this friend, a very smart feminist that it's actually a white woman that told me that one of the pieces that many are grieving the most is that they were robbed of their resilience. For such a long time, comfort
Yep.
made them
Yep.
forget
Yep.
how to be resilient, how to reconnect to their body as resistance.
Yep.
They never thought they would need it. And
Yeah.
that not that Europeans had it easy, because if we go back in time, there was a lot of colonization that
Yes.
made it just as hard for Europeans, but the erasure of identity and this hegemonia, this hegemony, like,
Homogenous. Like,
yes,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
making them all the same, like
Hmm.
just one huge body of whiteness in
Yes.
quotations,
Right.
uh, has actually robbed so many people from their roots, their identity, and their capacity to connect to a deeper wisdom
Yeah.
that actually knows how to guide them through resistance. Like, because our body knows, our body just needs to be heard. We know what to do. It's just that we have been totally and consistently abused by colonization, patriarchy, supremacy, and
Mhm.
capitalism for such a long time
Yeah.
that we've forgotten how to reconnect.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think for me, like one thing that has just been so on the surface for myself over the last few years is this learning, hunger, reconnection to what I call my ancestral spirituality. So looking at where my lineage is from and what were their spiritual practices prior to Christianity, right? Like what were the women in my lineage doing
Yeah.
to honor what all cultures and societies did, which was the cycles of the moon, the seasons of nature. What were they doing to nourish their bodies? To how were they practicing magic, whatever that looks like? What were they using to transmute energy? And that, like, personally, that has just been, again, something that has been so important to me over the last few years because I think that, especially for women of European descent who get into personal and spiritual development and get kind of caught up in like new age spirituality, it's very ungrounded, right? Like, not only is it not grounded like truly into the earth, but it's like not grounded into the body because it's kind of like, what are you searching onto. And, the certification program that you and I both went through is a tantric-based certification program. And I recently had someone ask me like, "Well, what's your background in tantra?" And I was like, "I mean, I have this certification, but that's not my spiritual path. Like, one, ancestrally, like that is just not where I come from. And I don't have the pull for that to be my spiritual path where I'm going to learn how to read Sanskrit and I'm going to like actually learn the tenets of that spirituality. So
Yeah.
I don't say that that's what I practice. Are there tantric practices, principles, things that, yes, of course. But like, I don't know. I just think as we, again, kind of bringing this back to the beginning when we were talking about devotion, I think a lot of women and across the board, right? Because again, we've all been, and certain communities more than most, victims of colonization, patriarchy, religion, capitalism. There's this like searching for, I think, and I would love your thoughts, again, this like, I call it ancient feminine wisdom, which is innate in us. I do think it's like in ourselves and ready to come forth. Um, but so many of us have no um we have like no mentors. We have no matriarchs to teach us what that looks like. And I think that that's can be really challenging. I don't know. I would love your thoughts. That just kind of came up. I wasn't planning on taking it there, but
So much to say. I was raised as a Catholic too, because in
yeah,
Mexico that's the
of
main
course.
religion.
Yeah.
Um, And of course, that's not the religion that I practice right now. But there's something very powerful about Catholicism, which is that at the end of the day, the mystics started taking from the religions that they still wanted to practice and
Yep.
to hide their own
Hmm.
mysteries inside
Yep.
this
They just kind of
religion.
folded it in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not telling you, but here the goddess, here is Bridget, and here is, but
Absolutely.
they still have these mysteries. Like, so what I have found is it's a multi-layer
Yeah.
process, one in which we get to see the grief and the pain that their religion has imposed on us, because religions, all of them, Abrahamic religions
Yes.
specifically, have caused a lot of pain to women
Yes.
through the
Yeah.
ages. So it's the recognition of this pain, then the search for the deeper treasure underneath, because there have always been women that have challenged the norm
Yes.
and have been hidden, right? Like Hildegard,
Yes.
we have Sor Juana Inés here in Mexico. That there
Yes.
have been these rebellious women
Yeah.
that have forever created these mysteries. Like there were a group of nuns back in the Middle Ages that actually just lived together as a rebellious act. Like they
Yeah.
they they pretended to be nuns just to be able to
Yes.
live together. So
Uh-huh.
it's like there has always been this rebelliousness, and underneath, like that's the second layer, and then the third is the wisdom of the Asian goddesses that has never been truly forgotten, but they have just like lend the name for other saints,
Mhm.
for other virgins, but they were still the same. Aphrodite is pretty much alive. Uh, Inanna is still alive.
Absolutely.
Bridget it's an ancient Celtic goddess. Like
Yeah.
they are alive. They didn't go anywhere. We just need, just like with the body, to go back and look into our body and remember that they are still part of who we are, because we carry in us the DNA of so many people that honor them.
Yeah.
And with that honoring comes the memory of that devotion, of that vibration inside of our own being.
Oh, that's such a good point. I love those layers, especially for Catholicism. And, it's just, it's so interesting when you're raised Catholic and then when you deconstruct and kind of like pull, it's like a big knot and you like start to pull it apart and you're like, wait, this string is actually something I want. Oh, this string is actually something really beautiful. And like, no wonder I felt, I don't know about you because again, you started into your spiritual devotional path much younger than I did. But there was a time where I thought I was going to be a nun,
Me
right? Like,
too.
I think that's so common for those of us now who are priestesses, who are mystics, who are like spiritual leaders in some way. And what I mean by spiritual leader is, again, not this like patriarchal hierarchy, but a woman who is like grounded in her spirituality and that's woven into her leadership. But I think for many of us, like we have stories of, oh yeah, of course I thought I would be a nun. And what I've reconciled that to be is like that thread of devotion, as you said, it's always been there. It was
Yes.
just pointed in the only direction I knew at that time, which was Catholicism and essentially becoming a nun. And so for me, there's been this like beautiful reclamation as well of like, oh, like I remember one year, oh my gosh, I don't know that I've ever told this story. But you'll appreciate it. I think you'll laugh. I
Oh.
was in Catholic school, of course, and it was Good Friday. And
Mhm.
I couldn't have been more than like 12, right? I told my family, we have to be silent from 12 to 3 on Good Friday. And again, my parents, like, my dad grew up Catholic. He went through Catholic school, but it was very much like cradle Catholic, cultural Catholic. He wasn't like, very strict. And him and my mom were like, and I was like, no, like, we have to be silent for 3 hours on Good Friday because that is like when we're meant to feel, all the pain of the death and blah, blah, blah. And again, course I was that dramatic because what am I doing now? Like multi-hour long rituals with Mary Magdalene. Like nothing has changed. It just was like that was the only framework that I had at the time. So of course that's what I was like working out or through. But again, I love the layers because again, I think moving forward for women leaders spiritual devotion it is a requirement.
Mm.
Like it,
Especially,
yeah, good.
yeah, especially because it's a spirit incarnate in this world. Like when we are speaking about devotion in leadership, um, so one of the things that I love about the tantric philosophy is this idea that everything is consciousness.
Yes,
All of
yes,
creation is consciousness.
agreed.
So we are serving the divine through serving the world. We are serving the divine through serving our clients, through serving the people that we love. If there is not a sense of service,
Yeah.
then what are we really doing? Who are we actually working for? And eventually, uh, what we end up doing is we end up working for this shallow idea of self that
Mhm.
is turns into what many people call the ego, which I have my issues with that term because, of
Yeah,
course, it's not well rooted.
right.
Um, but it's like we end up serving this idea of the self that
Mhm.
is vague and that it's shallow, and we stop serving for a greatest good. And leadership should be about the greatest good, should be about this love in action. And love for me, that is devotion, is love in action. And what other than to do that through our work, our presence, our leadership. At the end of the day, that is what it should be about.
Ugh, I love that. I love that. And I think like for whoever is watching or listening to this, if you don't have like a strong defined spiritual practice or path, one thing that I also come back to in terms of the word devotion is like devotion to my mission, devotion to what I teach, right? So like yes, for me and for you as well, that is deeply involves the goddess, that deeply involves spiritual ritual, that deeply involves ancestral wisdom and magic and practice. Um, and like there is if you aren't rooted in that yet or at all, it can also mean, and I would love your thoughts on this, like devotion to your body of work, right? Because whatever your body of work is, hopefully you have a level of mastery and embodiment and like you're teaching that because that's what's helped you. So yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
And you see that, like, there's devotion to the music by the
Yes.
musicians. There is the
Yes.
devotion to dance, to film. Like, there is a sense of devotion. It doesn't have to be, and it's not necessary that it has to be about an outer entity, but it
Mm,
has to be a devotion to
yeah.
the craft, a devotion to the people that we are working for, even to our families, even to our land. Like, there is this sense of a sense of something greater than us that doesn't have to be to be named as an entity. It can really be just our surroundings, our world, our community, devotion to our community. And that's the one thing that I feel is the most lacking in these systems of colonization.
Mm-hmm.
When we are colonized,
Yep.
we stop believing that we need to serve something greater, because the one greater thing is an institution. And it's like these institutions take the cap and they say, we are the one you are here to serve. You are to be devoted to my office, my building, my whatever I say in TV, the 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 person embodying the presidency, and people start giving away that energy
Mm-hmm.
to those characters,
Mm,
to that egregor, to that master.
yeah.
And when we do that, we're giving our life away, our life force away to these people that are taking control over the world. So
Yeah.
that's why devotion here is a revolutionary act. Is I am against giving my energy to these people that want to feed on who I am and what I'm doing and my energy and my love and my beauty. And I am not going to feed them. I'm going to feed something greater. I'm going to feed my community, nature,
Yeah.
my ecosystem, my family, an entity, the divine. Like that. That's why it is an act of rebelliousness.
Oh my God. So, so beautiful. Thank you so much for this incredible conversation. And for those of you watching and listening, I know that you loved this as much as I did. So please make sure that you're signed up for the Embodied Feminine Leadership Revolution. And also, please make sure to go follow Sasha on all of her social media accounts because you want to be in her world. So, as we go ahead and wrap up, is there anything left on your heart or anything coming up for you that you want to share with the audience?
Mm, Yes, thank you so much, first of all, for this invitation. And one thing I would like to share is we don't need to carry the weight of the world in our shoulders and think that we need to fix every little thing, but we need to witness what's going on and to carry that in our heart as love in action. How can I love just a little bit more? How can I, in action, make a change, make a difference? So, witness, support, uh, and then serve. Witness, support, and serve. Don't let this hopelessness, this learned hopelessness take over, because it's very easy to all of a sudden say, go to either extreme, either just fall for the learned hopelessness, this is terrible, horrible, we're all gonna die, or to feel, okay, I will not even look at it because it's so bad that it will just lower my vibration or whatever. Both of them are destructive. We need to witness,
Yep.
support, and serve constantly, which is pretty much what people in indigenous communities keep
Yeah.
doing over
Yes.
and over and over
Yes.
again. And then in service comes love, and in service comes pleasure. By celebrating life, we are also rebelling against these kind of systems of oppression that have their root on our necks. So let's just remove the boot with a dance, with celebration, with pleasure, with joy, with loving the small things in life,
Yeah.
so that we keep nourishing them more and more.
Oh my God, amazing. Thank you so, so much for being here. This was such a powerful conversation, and I know so many women are going to deeply, deeply benefit from this. So, if you've been watching this episode or listening to this episode, thank you so much. Feel free to share it on social media. Tag both of us. We would love to see you sharing this information. And hopefully, we will see you during the event, March 20th through 27th. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.